You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
What's up, guys? Good morning. Welcome into Packers Total Access. Let's call it the game day morning edition. What do you think, Jacob? How cool is it to be sitting here on August the 10th and go, you know what? We got Packers football today, man.
It's pretty awesome. And again, this morning I woke up and it's like 62 degrees, brisk. Took the dog out and had to actually wear a hoodie and some sweatpants, had a cup of coffee. Dude, I'm telling you,
yeah,
I love it.
Doesn't get any better than that, man. No doubt. Me, I'm one of these people. I'm a hoodie guy. You guys haven't noticed. So I just run the AC so hard into the ground, trying to get the house at about 64, 65 degrees to justify wearing a hoodie at all times. That's usually my goal in life. So I know we got a bunch of people already following in. Excitement just through the freaking roof. I put a tweet out this morning, and I'll pull it up. I won't pull it up on the screen, but I'll just give you the numbers real quick. The tweet I put up was, where you at? I just said, game day roll call. Where will you be rooting on the Packers from today? We will be screaming, go Pack, go from Tennessee. Like 181 likes, 67 responses, and it's only been up for a couple of hours. Everybody chiming in from Japan, from Mexico. I mean, just all over the freaking globe. It's absolutely awesome, man. Packer fans showing up strong today for a preseason game, of course. So had several of them in there too. Jacob said they're going to be in the stadium. I'm a little jealous. I can't lie, but if you guys want to find yourself in the stadium this year, Jacob, a couple of different things I wanted to hit on this morning. We're definitely going to be doing a pregame show an hour before kickoff. So I think it's 3:25 kickoff your time, I believe. Yeah. So it'll be 4:25 my time. So at roughly 2:25 Central today, we're going to be doing a pregame show. There you go. Look at Dave James from Australia. You love to see it, man.
G'day, mate.
I knew it was coming. Us Americans, we just can't help ourselves. And I guarantee you, anytime we try to mimic anyone's accent, Jacob, they go dumb rednecks every time. Every single time. But roughly 2:25 Central Time today, we'll go live for a pregame show. And we already got some content lined up to give you guys and gals kind of an idea of what to watch for tonight in terms of which players do you think have an opportunity to maybe, I don't want to say earn their roster spot today, but definitely put themselves in a position to win that roster spot. It's going to be a lot of fun, really fun conversation. So make sure you guys and gals drop in for that. And then we'll be doing a post-game show, which Jacob's always my favorite, man. The post-game show, if you had to say, Clayton, you got to pick one thing to do, even over the chalk talks. I love our post-game shows. Win or lose, they are just they're absolute fire, man. I can't help but laugh at you guys if we do lose. Everybody looks so pissed and depressed. Tim's the best, dude. Tim is the best.
Yeah. And I think we've gotten better at dealing with it. I know I personally have, because I used to I don't handle losses well. So it's definitely been therapeutic for me to just get on here and kind of, suffer together.
It helps to try to understand, okay, what exactly happened rather than just being pissed. You know what I mean? And it kind of occupies that part of your mind where it's like, okay, I'm not just harping on the fact we let one slip away or we got absolutely boat raced, right? Again, there's always something to be learned, and it's never as bad as it seems. It's also never as good as it seems when it comes to the NFL, obviously. So let's jump into some topics here real quick. PFF Packers tweeted this out. Thought it was cool. Said highest graded returning Packers. Again, I always use the PSA here of, listen, we're not saying that PFF is everything. It's just another tool that we use, another metric. Okay, here's their grades for the highest returning Packers. Okay, Jordan Love, 84.5, leading the way. You want to know why he got the bag? There's another good. It just cracks me up, Jacob, how people absolutely dog PFF, and it never fails. You end up looking at the statistics. You end up looking at the pay, the salary. It's rare that you got someone who has an extremely high PFF grade that's not getting paid great money, right? It always seems to line up. Same thing with the guys who have a low PFF grade. It's very rare that you find someone who's getting paid a boatload of money and they don't have a solid PFF grade. But nonetheless, Jordan Love, 84.5. Second is Rashawn Gary at 80.9. Third is Zach Tom at 80.3. Fourth is Tay Wicks at 78.3. And then fifth is Jair Alexander at 75.9. So that list there, obviously, that's according to PFF, those are your best players, okay? Or at least they played the best in 2023. My mind immediately goes to positions of importance, right? Quarterback, tier 1, tackle, tier 1, albeit usually it's the backside of, most people would say, hey, both tackles are equally important. So Zach Tom kind of on the borderline of one of those tier 1. Rashawn Gary, same thing on defense, tier 1. As far as receiver and corner, I don't see them as important, although with the RPO game ramping up in the NFL, corners becoming more and more important. Some people are kind of leaning into corner is just as important as edge defenders because there are so many teams that run RPOs, and the number one way – the reason teams went to the RPO is to neutralize the pass rush. Ball comes out so quick or the ball's handed off so quick that you're neutralizing the pass rush. So you're kind of limiting what that edge defender can do in terms of impact on the game. Now, the way that you disrupt that is you have the corners play press. The corners play press, you throw off the timing, you essentially take away the passing element of the RPO, which is run pass option. So some people are saying corner is starting to raise up the list a touch. But what do you think about these 5 players here, man? Pretty cool to see at least 3 of them at those huge positions.
Yeah, definitely. If you had to pick 3 positions to have your highest rated players, I don't think you could go wrong with quarterback, edge defender / D end, and then your, starting tackle. And then it's nice to see, I'd like to see Don Tavian take a little bit of a step this year, and I think he will, as well as Jair. I think that he deserves, or I think we deserve to have him play at a plus 80 level if he's going to be the top paid cornerback in the league. I think that's reasonable to expect greatness out of him. And then I think that there's a few other guys that might crack that, I would say plus 75 is you're in the really good type of players. I wouldn't be surprised if we doubled the amount of players that are in that list going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I know we had a question here. If you want to read that question, I think they were asking how to watch the game.
Yeah, I flagged a couple of questions here. It looks like R.E. Iron Miner here says, where's the best place to stream the Packers? But then he prefaces it with no TV, no Wi-Fi. So I don't. I could
find a magic tree stump.
I was gonna say I could call you from a walkie-talkie, I guess. Now, I think he went on to say that he's going to be at maybe his family's or his daughter's. I don't know if that's saying that you don't have any Wi-Fi or TV. I know that the NFL Plus app is probably the easiest way to stream it. I'm pretty sure. Is that correct, Clayton?
Yeah, so this right here is what's listed on the Packers website. It says Packers TV Network, right? And then I guess that's to listen to the game is WRNW FM Milwaukee 97.3. They got rights to the radio broadcast. Now, also, when you're exactly correct. You can watch on NFL Plus, and guys, it's not that expensive. It used to be crazy outrageous. Now it's kind of like this monthly charge that's fairly affordable. I can't even remember the exact amount.
I think it's like $4.99.
Yeah. So you can watch every preseason game live on NFL Plus. Not only that, you can go back. I'm pretty sure, double check, but I'm pretty sure
24.
You can go back and watch every preseason game replay too on demand. It's well worth the NFL Plus app for sure. Now on the Packers website, they've got a link that says live game stream. And when you click on it, it says, sorry, something has gone wrong. And it's showing like it's going to be live streamed. Now, maybe you've got to be in their area to do that. I don't know all the details, but the easiest answer there, RE Iron Miner, is just just get NFL Plus, dude. It's well worth it. I'm telling you, it's the best money I've spent in a long time. And again, like Jacob said, with NFL Plus, as you get into the season, you can rewatch all the games. They've got it condensed, commercial free. You can watch the complete broadcast. You can watch the condensed where it's everything's commercial free. You can watch the complete game broadcast, or you can watch whistle to whistle where they cut all the stuff in between out. You can get through a game in like 40 minutes every snap. And they've got the all 22 as well. So it's well worth the money for sure. So anyway, back to this here. Yeah, I think it's awesome that three of those positions on offense we would consider tier one. And then, of course, Dontavian Wicks is the one that I'm the most excited to watch this year. You guys know I've talked about him all offseason. I just feel like the only thing holding him back is touches. And that may get amped up this year. You know, I think it was later in the year when they really started to press in a touch. You've seen it in Dallas. The big thing is going to be staying in 11 personnel, Jacob. And I know people were excited about the 2 tight end sets. Me personally, right now, where I'm at, and this could change, it's very fluid, I want to see 11 personnel with Tucker Kraft on the field. That's just me. I feel like he gives you a better opportunity to run the football. He's more physical as a blocker. He's got better hands than Musgrave, believe it or not. That's not my personal opinion. That's just what the numbers show with drop percentage and all that. He's a guy who Musgrave, you know, sometimes we talked about it. He'll catch a ball, stumble a little bit, and hopefully he gets that straightened out. Tucker Kraft plays with better balance, better contact balance. So I would like to see 11 personnel. And again, you're going to get a heavy rotation of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks. So, what do you think about Wicks, man? We're going to talk about Reed next, but do you think they're kind of holding him back a little bit to keep him from getting showcased as much, kind of like what we hinted at the other night, or because 6 snaps at family night just so odd, man?
Yeah, it does seem weird, and I don't personally think we're going to see him today. And if we do, it'll be maybe for that opening drive. I don't know if it'd be like because again, he's gotten a good look last year. He's been talked about non-stop in the off season as far as with the fantasy football aspects. Every single article that comes out, any sleeper list he's on, any second year breakout list he's on. So I don't know. It is weird. I don't quite know what to think of it because they do seem to be like they're kind of holding him close to the vest, but. Yeah. I don't know if maybe I don't think he has any sort of lingering injury. I really don't know, but I hope that they're not. Hope this isn't, like you said, a sign to come that for whatever reason they're just not going to be giving him as many snaps this year. I think if anything, he's earned it. He's done the offseason work. There's a possibility they're holding him, you know, but I just don't see quite the benefit of it. But
yeah, Ben in the chat, Ben Holden says 2 tight ends is LaFleur's bread and butter. They ran more 12 personnel than any other team in the league last year. 12 personnel being 1 running back, 2 tight ends, obviously 2 wide receiver sets. But they still ran more 11 personnel than 12. So it's not like it's not their most used personnel, but you're spot on there, Ben. He really loves to use those 12 tight end set or those 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. So the big thing is, can Musgrave play that third receiver? And I think most people would say, yes, he can. I just want to see more of it this year. He's had kind of a quiet camp, although the other day he did have a nice catch at that last practice that we talked about and did a recap on. It's going to be interesting. The big problem I have with just saying, all right, the heck with 11 personnel, let's lean into 12. Every big play last year, especially mainly in the passing game. Like we broke down Jordan Love's top 10 highlights, right? It was on NFL.com. Every single play on that top 10 highlights playlist was 11 personnel. So it's like if you're taking away the big play, the explosive plays through the air because you're wanting to press into 12, albeit when we showed some of the average yards per play there, Jacob, when we were talking about the different, the weak outside zone, things like that, most of the time that was 12 personnel. That's definitely, you're getting more production out of the running game of 12, that's the goal. But it's going to be interesting to see how these tight ends adapt because that's the other cool thing, man. These guys were they were so young last year, the tight end position. They're going to be so much better. There's not going to be any confusion with the playbook. They're not going to not understand the choice routes to a T now. It's going to be interesting, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of the game that people are sleeping on is the fact that this team was so young and that they've had to have taken leaps and bounds in the offseason. We've seen it personally with the amount of work they've put in. And if we got that kind of result after only a half season of them really clicking together, if that carries over into the offseason and then starts at the beginning of the season, I really do think that you could see. And I was pretty impressed with it. By the end of the year, I'm like you. I really do think that Tucker Kraft is the more well-rounded tight end, which I wouldn't necessarily thought that when we drafted him. I thought maybe he'd be more of a typical inline tight end, maybe more clunky, better in the trenches. But I think that he has better ball skills than Musgrave. I really do. Better hands, more fluidity, able to catch the field, turn up field, and do some yak. So I'm excited to see his progression. Too old for this, actually. Has a good comment going. He goes, I think Tucker will probably buy a Messiah Swenson jersey to wear so we can sneak into the game today. So I thought that was an interesting comment because I don't expect Tucker Kraft to go. I don't think LaFleur is going to play him. But if you go on to Prize Picks, they do daily fantasy for even preseason games. So it's kind of interesting right now. For instance, if you pull up, they're projecting Malik Taylor at 20.5 yards receiving. They got Bo Melton at 19.5 yards receiving. They got Samari Torre at 19.5. But then they have Tucker Kraft catching 12.5 receiving yards. So that one right there, I would go bet the under on that immediately.
Oh my gosh, they're giving away money there.
Exactly. And then for rushing, the only Packer they have listed is Marshawn Lloyd. They got him slated at 24.5 rushing yards today. I think that he's going to surpass that.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to be in the game for at least a solid quarter. You know?
I want to tell people to go bet the farm on that Tucker Kraft. But it might be my luck. He'd suit up.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. Usually they're very picky about not putting guys in that aren't going to play. So I'm surprised they had him listed there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Good pull there, man, for sure. Let's see here. Ben Holden in the chat said, check this poopy out. The lady that owns the Airbnb we reserved for the 2025 draft wanted to raise the price $4,000. Effing sucks. Now we have to scramble to find a place where you guys stand. Ben, same thing happened to me, bub. Same thing. I had already paid for the Airbnb. I said, I want to pay for it in full. I don't want anybody backing out on me, blah, blah, blah. About a week later, I said, we didn't have our new prices up. That's for the draft. So it doubled the price. So we actually looked at staying up in Sturgeon Bay in that area, right, up in Door County. And then we finally just pulled the trigger, made a decision, and I shouldn't have said pull the trigger. Oh, no. We made the decision. 2024 is a wild place to live. We decided to go with the Airbnb about a mile from Lambeau. It costed a lot of money, bro. Big hit to the bank account right out of the gate, but I'm happy with where we're at. So to answer your question, we're about a mile from Lambeau Field, roughly. So within walking distance, within Ubering distance, that type of thing. Really nice neighborhood, just north of Lambeau. So good luck, man. Hope you find it. Hope you find a place. I know it sucks. Same thing happened to us, but it's frustrating. The people we did settle in with, though, they seem like a really good family, and we're excited to have done business with them. I was trying to tell people, what was it, 6 months ago, Jacob, when I booked it roughly? I'm like, guys, get it now. I'm telling you, the Airbnbs are going crazy right now. So
yeah.
All right, see here. Steve in the chat said, Evan Williams is really turning heads in training camp, and I know we're running a 4-3 defense instead of 3-4 this year, which is awesome, but I can see us running a lot of 4-2-5 defense as well. 4-2-5 will be the large majority of what we run, Steve, no doubt about it. It was last year. It was just in the form of a 2-4-5, with our outside linebackers being the same two guys that are going to be playing in the 4-2-5 as defensive ends. We're outside linebackers in the 2-4-5, right? So it's essentially the same exact setup in nickel defense, although I think they're going to run a lot of what we call big nickel and these three safety sets. I could see that too. It's all going to come down to what you were talking about. Does Evan Williams continue to show, hey, look, I can be a starter in this league? If that's the case, now it's Keyshawn Nixon versus Javon Bullard in the slot. I think they love Javon Bullard over Evan Williams at safety, But now the comparison becomes, who would you rather have on the field, Evan Williams or Keyshawn Nixon? And right now, early on, I'm leaning Evan Williams. Now, we might get into the first game of the season if he does win a starting role, and he might play like absolute dog crap, right? Because that's just sometimes camp elevates people. We'll see. But I do think it's a good problem to have, no doubt. And also, you're going to have Katano Ladapo, who we haven't seen anything about. He was arguably the guy that we were most excited about, you know. I think I had him as my third best safety in the draft, if I remember correctly. I think we got my second best and my third best, if I remember correctly. First one I had Tyler Newman, then Javon Bullard, then Katano Ladapo. That's how they fell. So, and it's crazy that we were able to get the second and third best safety, again, according to my board. It doesn't mean it's right, but that's my board's set up to be very, very safe too. So let's see what else we got here. 2-0 for this says, I bet the first play of the game is a bomb to Watson for a touchdown, then pulling love. Would that not be awesome, Jacob? That's how you kick off the preseason right there.
Yeah, I'd take a bomb to him or Melton, anybody really. It'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Ben Holden says we might rent a van to stay in a van down by the river. Well, Chris Farley, man, rest in peace. What a legend! What an absolute legend. Let's talk some Jayden Reed. That cool with you, Jake?
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with Multiview, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action, make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com. You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Yes.
That was already flying by, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys and gals are awesome. So PFF Packers tweeted this out. Only CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown gained more yards from the slot in 2023 than Jayden Reed, the eyeball emoji. Fantasy outlook for 2024. So I've actually got the article here, and I wanted to pull it up because it's really, really interesting. I've also got SIS data to kind of comp to it. And we're just going to kind of fire from the hip and see what you all think about this article here. Jacob, I'll try to read everything here. It says Fantasy Football Player Profile 2024, Green Bay Packers wide receiver Jayden Reed. Keep in mind, guys, I don't play fantasy football, but anytime you've got an article talking fantasy football, there's still things you can learn from it, whether you like fantasy or not, right? And I do want to give a plug for our fantasy football league that we're going to be doing here for Packer Fan Total Access. If you're a member of one of the 3 tiers in our Patreon group, just go to patreon.com and search Packer Fan Total Access or patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. And you'll see a link in there. There's actually a separate chat set up where you can click on the link and join the Fantasy Football League. I was looking through it earlier. The prizes are pretty cool. There's going to be a first place prize, second place prize, third place prize because there is an entry fee type thing. But if you guys are interested in that, go join it. Now, but there's still information to be learned from fantasy football. just like the gambling stuff, I never want this to turn into a gambling show. But when we talk about the lines and all that, like Jacob pointed out last night, some of the over-unders on key statistics, it can kind of give you a glimpse into, all right, here's the starting point on the season of what we're expecting from this player, that player, this player. I think all that more information is better than less, is all I'll say. So the article says Jayden Reed is already one of the league's best slot receivers. Reed racked up 653 receiving yards from the slot last season, third at the position behind only CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown. It says Reed needs to play in 2 receiver sets. The Green Bay Packers are loaded at all skill player positions, unlike last season. Reed needs to be an every down player if fantasy managers are to trust him each week. And it goes on in the article. They've got some really cool stuff. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'm just going to pull some little clips out of here. It says player performance. Reed, a second-round pick from the 2023 draft, earned the lead slot receiver job before the Packers' first preseason game and maintained that role throughout last season. He averaged only 24 routes per game, making it difficult to accumulate stats, but he was a very impressive on a per-play basis for a rookie. He excelled as a slot receiver, ranking above the 90th percentile in yards per route run from the slot. Reed also performed well in challenging situations for slot receivers, including against double coverage and press coverage. His standout route was the go route, where he averaged 3.52 yards per route run, though the number will likely regress. Among all receivers with at least 200 routes from the slot, Reed's average depth of target of 11.9 yards was the 5th highest, and his deep target rate of 26.2% was the 3rd highest. For comparison, the medians for these metrics are 8.6 yards and 12% respectively. Now, let's talk X's and O's. Again, this is what's so cool. This is a fantasy article, right? Why was he running so many go routes? Remember us talking about dagger, Jacob? Mm-hmm. Dagger. When you've got at least 2 receivers, and they'll even run a little dagger concept out of a 3-by set. When you're in a 2-by-2 set, or what we refer to as dubs, it can be a tight end involved too. With the dagger concept, you're from the outside in, you count in. Your outside receiver is your 1, your inside is your 2. If there's a third, that's a 3. When you hear us say speed to 3, that's what we're talking about. With a dagger concept, the 2 receiver, in this case, the slot receiver, will run a go route. He did it. He made a living off of it at Michigan State. And what he'll do is little shake, get on the outside shoulder. Go back to the Saints game. You'll go back to the Saints game, and this might have been a Haas. It might have been a Haas passing concept. I could be wrong, but he ran a go route, a go fade out of the 2, and they put it right on the money. Great diving grab by Jayden Reed. He made his hay at Michigan State running that. Now, he'll also play Z in motion into the 2, right? And what I mean by Z is he may line up as that number 1 receiver on the right over Jayden Reed was playing in that specific situation running dagger. If he motions inside, which one's the slot now? That's where the water gets muddy. So typically that guy motioning is what they refer to as the flyer. And the other guy they'll use as the Z. So that's why you don't hear LaFleur talk about slot much. He talks about F or flyer. That's what he's talking about, okay? So some of these numbers may be a little bit muddied up, if that makes sense. But regardless, LaFleur loves that dagger concept. But the dagger concept is number 2, go, number 1, dig underneath. What you're doing is clearing out for the dig, or you're forcing a one-on-one matchup for the number 2, and you hit that back shoulder on that go route. So pretty cool. He's getting recognized, though, man. And like I said, that 11.9 yards was the 5th highest. That's absolutely awesome, man. What do you think about those numbers? We'll dive a little bit deeper into this article here a bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me that he's in the top 3 of any kind of percentage or stat with CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra, I would probably, that's just some very rare air to be in. So he's another guy where I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did as a rookie. And I think the second-year step that we could see from him and Wicks, I think we could be underselling it, which is crazy because we talk about it all the time. And it's
right.
one of the biggest conversations when you talk about the Packers. You talk about how young they are. They talk about the wide receiver room, and you talk about the tight ends and that kind of stuff. But Jayden Reed really didn't look like a rookie last year by any means. I mean, Matt LaFleur to put as much trust as he did running a lot of the offense through him shows that. And Matt LaFleur, he doesn't just trust his playbook to first-year guys unless they really seem like they get it. I think that could be an indication as to why we were all so surprised how early they took Jayden Reed, because they saw exactly what his skill set was, exactly how they were going to use it in Matt LaFleur's playbook and his schemes, how that flyer position specifically, like you talked about, the little pop passes or whatever you want to call them. I mean, he seems like he was engineered in a lab by Goody and LaFleur, test tube baby Jayden Reed, and then they just, I'm excited.
Speaking of test tube baby right here, you know what I'm saying?
He's got a before head, a forehead, and an after head.
Exactly. So the chart here, for those of you listening on the pod, Jayden Reed production by situation. This is yards per route run percentile, okay? And really cool. In double coverage, 18.6% of all routes, 3.97 yards per route run. Not open, 49.6% at a 0.92, so that's 90 percentile, right? Am I thinking right there? It's kind of hard to read the chart. Nonetheless, receivers pressed 18.3% at 2.17. Lined up slot 76%, 2.22. Zone coverage 68.5%, 2.21. Receiver not pressed 81.7% at 2.02. Open 50.4% at 3.16. Man coverage 25.3% at 1.91. And then single coverage 65.6% at 1.59. Lined up wide 23% at 1.52. The number I wanted to get to down here, yards per route run percentile. Look at the go routes, Jacob. I'm telling you, man, that right there is what we're talking about when we're talking about him running that go in that dagger concept. 3.52 yards per route run on go routes. In routes, 5.7%. So in some cases, they may yo-yo him. They may put him in the Z, bring him in, motion him back out, and they still run a dagger concept, and he's actually the dig, right? And they can do this out of three receiver sets as well, and you could throw in what's really cool, and Matt LaFleur did this very well last year. Two of his favorite passing concepts are dagger, which is the one with a dig and in roughly a 10-yard in route, and the two on a go. And then the other passing concept is slot cross, where the two runs a crosser and the one on the backside of that crosser runs a dig. So you got basically number one digs is one of the go-to routes in Matt LaFleur's offense. So now if you throw in a third receiver, guess what you can do? You can run the tight end, the Y, whether it's a trip set with three wide receivers, or you've got the Y in at the three. You can run the three on a crosser. Okay, you can run the one on a dig. There's your slot cross, and then in between the two with the slot, you run a go. You've got dagger and slot cross concepts on one side of the field. I'm telling you, man, these trip sets, these bunch sets as well, and now you're getting into some of these diamond sets with quad looks. The Packers didn't run it much, if at all, last year, but you're seeing it really take off in college. It's going to get really, really interesting on defenses. So in routes, the 4 route is a 5.7%, 2.14 was his yards per route run percentile, okay? Out routes, 17.3% at 2.04. Screen routes, 3.9% at 3.40. When you think screen, 2 different routes. Smoke route, ball snap, turn, catch the ball. You got a couple blockers, right? The other is bubble. With the bubble screen, it just looks like a bubble outside. So typically the slot or the 3, that's why you like to go speed to 3. You can stretch the field. You can run away from man and through zone on crossers, but also you get that quick little bubble. Put it this way. If you're showing on tape week in and week out, slot cross and dagger, they've got to know the 2's going to go deep. The 2's going to go deep. Then all of a sudden they give you 5 to 7 yards cushion. Come to the line. Jordan sees it. Check. Then they just go with a quick bubble screen. You're off to the races. You're really making the defense pick their poison. They can't cover everything. That's what we mean by the screen routes there. Comeback routes, 0.8% of the time at 1.33. Corner routes, just 7% at 1.44. Crossing routes, 18.9 at 1.75. Slant routes, 6.5% at 1.84. And then hitch routes, 10.3% at 1.10. Post routes only ran at 1.8% of the time, and obviously it looks like he didn't connect in that regard. So those are the routes that you really want to key in on for Jayden Reed. Anything you want to add to that, Jacob?
No, it's an interesting chart there, though.
Yeah, it's nice to see the visualization too. Hopefully, we explained it well enough for those of you that are just listening. But trying to see, I was going to comb through and see if there's anything else here. Here you go. This is just kind of simple. 2023 Jayden Reed utilization: 16 games in 2 receiver set roles. He was the secondary backup Z, meaning if everyone was healthy, he would play Z in these 12 personnels. So he was the backup. That means he's getting less snaps. That's the whole point of the article, is they need to get him on the field in these 12 personnel sets. I personally think they should stay in 11 personnel so you get him on the field and you're in your more dynamic formation in that regard too. 3 receiver set role, he was the lead slot in 3 receiver sets, okay? So he got the most snaps out of the slot of any other receiver on our team when you were showing 11 personnel. ADOT, all this stuff, there's no reason to get into all of it. Route snap percentile, 64%. Target share, 17.4%. We won't get into all that. I just want to show where he's lining up. Now, let's cross-check this over at SIS real quick, okay? Let me pull the screen up here. Hopefully we can get it to where you guys and gals can read it on screen. If not, we'll try to explain it as best we can here. I may have to adjust some stuff. Give me just a second. Jacob, let me get this out of this window. You tell me if this gets any better. We don't have to see all the stats either. I just want you guys to be able to see this somewhat. And I'll explain it to you too. I know we can close this in and get it a little more zoomed in here. But what I wanted to key in on, this is just the Packers, okay? And notice what I've done here. And you got to take this with a grain of salt. It says target lined up slot, position alignment left slot, position alignment right slot. I filtered everything else out. Now, the question is, does this mean just pre-snap slot, or does this mean when the Z motion's over to the slot? You understand what I'm saying, Jacob? Like he might line up as the Z, and then pre-snap motion, a little cheap motion, he actually technically ends up in the slot. Matt LaFleur refers to that as flyer. That's why he rolls his eyes sometimes when you hear the sports media talk about these terms like slot, flyer, things like that. You throw in choice routes and things get really convoluted. So here are the numbers, okay? And again, it gets a little bit wonky. Don't focus on routes run or targets and how they've got the same number. It's obvious that's just how their system's set up. If we go routes run from the slot, they're showing, they being SIS, they're showing that Jayden Reed led the team with 62 routes run out of the slot. Romeo Dobbs second at 43. Dontavion Wicks at 41. He was third. Christian Watson with 32 out of the slot. Luke Musgrave with 22. That's where you got the Y flex out there. Obviously, Malik Heath 20th. Bo Melton 15. Samori Toure 10. Tucker Kraft 7. That's what I'm saying about Tucker is more of that attached tight end, and you want to be able to flex Musgrave out almost as a third wide receiver in a 12 personnel. Josiah DeGuara had 6, Aaron Jones 4, A.J. Dillon 1, Patrick Taylor 1. That Aaron Jones number there, expect Josh Jacobs. I think that'll get upped a little bit, but not necessarily in the slot. What they really like to do in Matt LaFleur's offense, most teams like to flex the T or the running back into the passing formation in the slot. Matt LaFleur loves putting the T at the boundary, short side of the field, outside receiver, or what we refer to as the number 1 on that side. So those are the routes ran out of the slot from last year, according to SIS, Jacob. What do you think about that? Does anything catch you off guard? We're going to talk about production next.
No, I mean, I think I was a little bit surprised at the snap counts. I thought Wicks and Watson would have had more slot snaps than Dobbs for sure. But, you know, what do I know?
The reason you think that, Jacob, is because Dontavion Wicks was way more productive on a per snap basis at the slot. Check this out.
Yeah.
Routes ran, Jayden Reed, 62 routes ran out of the slot. Dontavion Wicks had, 21 fewer at 41. Look at the yards. So Jayden Reed had 572 receiving yards from the slot. Dontavion Wicks, 515. He was way more effective in the slot than Jayden Reed. Now, remember when we drafted Jayden Reed, and I got a little bit aggravated because the local reporters were like, oh, he's a slot receiver. And I'm going, bro, you guys watch none of his tape. He was in the Z predominantly at Michigan State. You're seeing he's more comfortable in the Z. And then when he is in the slot, them running go routes, well, guess what you can do in the Z most of the time? you're running a go route and you can mix in a Haas concept as well. So there's a lot of different ways you could attack it. But the thing I wanted to point out here was Dontavion Wicks, man, 515 yards on 21 fewer routes ran out of the slot than Jayden Reed. Dontavion Wicks needs to be your slot receiver, in my opinion, and Jayden Reed needs to be your Z. Now, it doesn't mean you can't mix and match with that Z motion like we talk about, or a flyer, and then have Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs be your boundary X. To me, that's the way I see it. Now, it's nice to know that Jayden Reed and Dontavion Wicks, you've got 2 slot receivers on the team, but at the same time, you're going to have 2 contracts come up here next year. When it comes time to pay Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, you got to look up and go, who would you rather have as your boundary X? You got 2 slots, and you got a good Z in Jayden Reed. You had to choose between the 2. That would suggest who plays boundary X better. I hate to say this, but in my opinion, Romeo Doubs is that guy. That's why I think Romeo Doubs would be more inclined to take less of a contract if you go to him early than Christian Watson, whose speed is going to warrant a bigger contract just in the global span of things across the league, I should say, globally. So what do you think about that, man, and how, like I said, we got 2 really good slot receivers. I just read that whole article and showed how Jayden Reed was really effective in the slot. But on a per-snap basis, Dontavion Wicks was even better, man.
Yeah, I mean, that is impressive there. I'm just looking at some of the other, trying to see if there's any kind of outliers. But
look at the intended air yards. See, what we were just talking about with Dagger, the intended air yards for Jayden Reed out of the slot was 837. So they're throwing down the field in that Dagger concept. Dontavion Wicks, 503. Dontavion Wicks is more of that spot play, sit down, crosser, shallow cross, that type of thing. How many times did we see it last year? He'd catch a pass across the middle, get hit by 3 guys, bounce off, and take off downfield, right? His yak is unbelievable. So that's something else to just kind of keep in mind. There's more. And let's go to the yak here and see Dontavion Wicks. Look at that. 200 yak yards as opposed to Jayden Reed's 194. So, and something else that's kind of surprising here when you go back to routes ran, Romeo Doubs ran 43 routes out of the slot, right? I think the majority of those, and I could be wrong, just trying to remember back to last year, the majority of those I personally think came out of 12 personnel, and what they would do is put Musgrave on the boundary, on the outside receiver as the 1, and then they would put Romeo in the slot. I think that's where you're getting a large majority of those, because when they were in 3 wide receiver sets, Romeo was typically your boundary X. So just another thing to kind of keep an eye on and see if LaFleur adjusts there. First downs, another huge metric in my opinion. Leading the way out of the slot, Dontavion Wicks with 25. Again, 21 fewer route ran out of the slot, and he had 2 more first downs than Jayden Reed. Romeo Doubs, obviously, out of that 12 personnel, came up with 20 first downs, and then next will be Christian Watson at 10. So
look at the broken tackles, too.
Oh, yeah, he's –
and missed tackles.
Yeah, he's a monster at it, man. Dontavion Wicks is great at it. Let's go to rates, and then we'll move on. It's, again – slot receiver, okay? When you go to rates, one of the things that I like the most is, we talk about all the time, receiver rating or passer rating when targeted. Dontavion Wicks leading the way out of the slot, 139.5. Bo Melton second at 122.9. A lot fewer opportunities, obviously. Third is Jayden Reed. So you're seeing, if for some reason we get in trouble with injuries throughout the season, who's the next effective guy out of the slot? Seems to be Bo Melton. And that really catches me a little off guard, because I see Bo as more of an outside receiver stretching the field. If you want to throw in some Mills play, some Mills concepts, or some double posts, things like that, I feel like Bo is probably more of your guy. But again, man, passer rating when targeted or receiver rating, Dontavion Wicks leading the way. That article said they got to figure out a way to get Jayden Reed on the field in 12 personnel. And I'm going, no, we need to stay in 11 personnel and get Dontavion Wicks on the field with Jayden Reed. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on here? As far as yards per route ran, that whole article was kind of geared around that. Dontavion Wicks had, out of the slot, his yards per route ran was 12.6. Jayden Reed's was 9.2. So get Wicks the ball, get him on the field.
Yep.
That's there. I'm done with my soapbox. So anything else you want to hit there? Anything else at all?
No, that's good.
All right, cool. It's important to kind of get primed on this stuff as we get ready for the season to kick off. Again, none of this matters in preseason. LaFleur's not going to be going out there showing these trip sets. And I mean, he'll play trips, but he's not going to go out there and get creative with it. You're going to keep as vanilla as possible. You want to put as little things on tape as possible to give your opponents an advantage going into week one. But these are things that as soon as week one hits, remember this conversation and go, okay, who's actually playing slot? Take into consideration the flyer position, and it's your pre-snap moving guys into that slot that may not count technically as slot snaps. It just depends on who you're listening to in that regard. And I really don't have the time to dive into who's more accurate. I could care less, to be honest with you. So you sent over an article earlier. I told you we're going to hit that tonight or a little later during the pregame show. That's 7 players to watch. You sent me another article too. We're basically, for the pregame show, guys, we're going to give you a primer on, hey, here's some guys to keep an eye on in today's game against the Cleveland Browns. So we'll hold that for later. Let's do a quick little 53-man projection. That cool with you?
Yeah.
All right, so Bill Huber tweeted this out. 2 weeks of Packers training camp is complete. Now begins the 3-week sprint to the August 27 roster cuts. Here's my second 53-man roster projection. So this is his 2.0 version of roster projection. You guys know Bill Huber has been covering the Packers for a very long time. We're not going to read everything about this article. We got about 7 minutes. We want to wrap this thing up. If you guys would hit that like button for us, help boost the algorithm, help other Packer fans find this channel. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Packer.
And if you could, Clayton, I know is going to have a few of the other streams already set up for this afternoon. If you guys could do us a favor and share those on your social media and say, hey, Packer fans, if you haven't checked this out, we do a pregame show. We'll be doing a postgame show. Just try to get more people in, try to grow the base. So that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So as soon as this wraps up, I'm going to create the link and I'll tweet it out at Packers_access. You'll see it pop up on YouTube as well. Go ahead, hit like, all that good stuff, share it, let everybody know we're going to be having a freaking party in here before kickoff, about an hour before kickoff. We'll be bringing you any actives, inactives, things like that might come down the pike, any breaking news. We'll show you some live look-ins at the stadium with screen grabs, stuff like that, what it's looking like up there in Cleveland. So it'll be a lot of fun for sure.
Also, if you guys want to actually do any sort of content while the game's going on, it sounds like our own Ryan Schlipp and his son Colin are going to be live streaming the actual game. So if you want to do the pregame with us, throw Ryan on in the background. He usually just says that, you don't have to actually watch his stream, just throw it onto the background. He'll do some commentary on it. And then once that's done, you throw on the old PTA post-game show. It'll be a good Saturday, man.
Absolutely. And if some of you are going, man, I don't have time to stay on YouTube all day, that QR code in the upper right, if you scan that will send you to PackerNet Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcast or your favorite podcast platform. You scan that, it'll send you to a link that's got all kinds of different platforms. You just pick your platform, go in there, or you can just go into your favorite, wherever you get your podcasts at and search PackerNet, PACKERNET, one word, podcast. That's where you can find this podcast and Ryan's podcast, the flagship PackerNet podcast. So that's a way that you can listen on the go without being on YouTube and all that good stuff. So, yeah. And so basically what Jacob just said, morning show right now, we'll be doing a pregame show. Then Ryan will be live for the game itself. And then post-game show, hop back over to my channel. So we're going to give you coverage. PackerNet's going to be live and video streaming today for damn near 10 hours. Pretty cool, man. It's awesome. Yeah. So, all right, let's go rapid fire here, Jacob. Bill Huber, latest 53-man roster projection. Quarterbacks, he's keeping 3. Jordan Love, Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt. What do you think? Disagree? It's looking more and more like that's a legit shot, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that if there's any way that they can keep the 3, I think they're going to try to do it.
There you go. All right, running backs, they're keeping 3. Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd. So he's insinuating Emmanuel Wilson will be a tough decision, but he's going to get cut. Okay, so I think we can stash him on the practice squad again. I hope that happens. I really like Emmanuel Wilson, but early on, people were saying Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd. How do you feel about it?
This could be – I'm going out on a limb here. I could see Goody making a cutthroat decision and cutting Dillon and keeping Wilson. I just haven't seen anything from Dillon that I thought he looks way more trimmed down. He looks like he should be more explosive, but during that scrimmage, I just didn't see anything that showed that he progressed. So I think Dylan, I don't know if he's on that list that I sent from the Brettel one, but today to me, he needs to have a really big showing out in preseason. He really does.
I agree. They don't need to be looking up going, let's rest Dylan. Like
right.
Yeah, outside of Josh Jacobs, these running backs need to get time. And people are going, you don't want to get them hurt. Listen, man, you can't live life scared. Like, we got to get out there and get some work in and see, all right, Emmanuel Wilson might come out and just go crazy like he did last year. Sooner or later, you're going to have to go. He's a legit back, right?
Yeah.
I believe in Emmanuel Wilson. I really do, if he can stay healthy. Let's see here. Yeah, Jay says, I'd rather keep Wilson over Dylan. I'm not saying I agree with you, Jay, but I can pull that back up. I completely understand where you're coming from. That profile pic of Jayden Reed with that little baby helmet is hilarious. Love the profile pic, Jay. That's awesome. Receivers, they're saying 6. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Tavion Wicks, Jayden Reed, Bo Melton, and Grant Dubose over Malik Heath. How you feel about that, Jake?
Oh, man.
That was the thing, too. He changed that. Look right here. That's what's crazy.
Right.
He added Dubose. So they're seeing something in Dubose in camp for sure.
Look, you guys know that I'm pretty loyal to my guy, Malik Heath. I love what he does as a receiver, but also as a blocker. I love the mentality, the toughness he brings. And that all being said, I think it's pretty clear that DeBose has had a better camp this year. It just seems like he's been flashing more, coming down with some really tough catches, aggressive catches over the middle, going up for 50-50 balls. I don't know. I think Tim would be happy about that, but I know Tim also loves Malik Heath. So
it's tough, man. You can't keep everybody. And we knew this was going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem at just about every position, too.
Do you think, though, if you have a better chance at stashing a guy, do you think you'd have a better chance stashing DeBose just because people saw what Malik Heath could do last year? He had a few really good plays, man.
I think that's a great point. I do. I think people would be less likely to sign Grant Dubose with their 53 than they would Malik Heath. That's just me. So I understand what you're saying. I would personally keep Malik Heath over DeBose. He's seen time, right? But if DeBose is showing something more than Malik Heath in camp, I can understand why it would come down to that too. But I agree with you. I think you'd be more likely to be able to keep DeBose on the practice squad, protect him, than Malik Heath. Listen, with all the Shanahan tree guys out there, all the Shanahan offenses, watching Malik Heath on tape in preseason block somebody with a damn water cooler, they are salivating over that. There's no doubt. That's important. Tight ends are saying, Bill Huber's saying keep 3, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Tyler Davis. So they're saying Ben Sims will be the one that's released here in that situation. And that has recently changed. I guess Tyler Davis is showing he's fully healthy. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I could see that's one of the positions where we talked about they could maybe surprisingly cut someone that's not that surprising. I think we could get away with stashing Ben Sims.
Got it. Offensive line, they're saying keeping 9. This is becoming a common theme. Only 9 as opposed to 10 or 11. They're saying Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Jordan Morgan, Zach Tom, Sean Ryan, Jacob Monk, Travis Glover, and Kadeem Telford. I feel good about that.
That's my group right there. If you'll notice, he changed it. He dropped Dillard. He has to get rid of Jennings, unfortunately, because he just hasn't been healthy. I think we can definitely stash Jennings on the practice squad. I like that. I think that's the best way to do it.
I do too. I would much rather them go out and get an extra swing tackle somehow, some way, and go. Who is it? I have no idea. But if Goody can find someone that he feels a little bit better at the swing tackle position, I'd be totally on board with that. But I'm with you. If you're not adding anybody else to the roster, I like that group the most. Jacob Monk, I think, is going to surprise us by the end of the year. I really do. All right, moving on. Defensive tackles. Now that we're in a 4-3, it no longer says defensive line. It says defensive tackles. Kenny Clark, they're saying 5. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Carl Brooks, Kobe Wood. I think that's pretty spot on there, Jacob. How you feel, man?
Yeah, it'd be tough because I know a lot of people like Jonathan Ford, and he's apparently had a really good camp. So I don't know. I hate to say it, but that might be one where by the end of the preseason week 3, if we've got some injuries, they figure out a way to kind of chess piece his way onto this team. He's had multiple coaches, and like Kenny even talked about him. A few of the other players have said that he's really taken a pretty big step. So I'd like to see if there's a way we can sneak him on there, I just don't know how we do it without injury.
Got it. Up next, defensive ends. You got 5. Rashawn Gary, Kingsley Enagbare, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, and Brenton Cox Jr. So I think I agree with that. It said the only change that was made was they added Brenton Cox to this group. I know you're happy about that, Jake.
Yep. Yes, I am.
Trying to see toughest.
I'm actually. I don't know if we talked about it, but LaFleur was specifically asked about Cox multiple times, at least 2 or 3 questions, and like it wasn't coach speak. He said that he's had 2 back-to-back really good practices, and that he's excited to see what kind of production he'll get, and said that he should get a lot of playing time this game. So, you guys know where I'm going to be watching.
Yep, absolutely. Linebackers keeping 5. Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper. Said toughest decision would be releasing Christian Welch. I don't think that's that tough of a decision, and I like Christian Welch. I agree with those 5. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, definitely those other 5. Got to stick with them. Quay Walker, McDuffie, I can see is my probably early favorite for the 2 starters if we're doing that 4-2-5. Throw in Wilson as well, and then I think it's perfect. We got 2 of our depth guys are really, really athletic, young, up-and-coming guys. I'm surprised, too, at Tyron Hopper. He's had Hopper. He's had a really good camp as well, and he looks like he's really good in the run defense, which is what we've been lacking in our depth. So I'm excited about that.
I always want to call him Hooper, too, man. It ain't just you.
I can't stop it.
Yeah. Cornerbacks are saying 6. Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Ballantyne, Corey Ballantyne, and Kalen King. Love it. Absolutely love
it. Dude, DB room set. Let's go.
Yeah. Safeties, 5. Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, Anthony Johnson Jr., and Katana Ladapo. Love it. Wouldn't change a thing.
No, it's perfect.
All right. Now, the only thing that might get mixed up is Katana Ladapo. If that toe's still bothering him a touch, I don't know if it is, then maybe they start the season with him on the, the pup, whatever it's called, when you get in season. You might be able to free up a roster spot there and still protect him on some kind of like 4-week IR or something. But hopefully he's ready to go. I want him to get more and more snaps. Specialist 3, they're saying Greg Joseph, Nick Dillon, and Matt Orzik. Changes. Anders Carlson released, Greg Joseph added. Jacob, you have the floor, sir. I've been catching hell over this. You guys know I was an Anders Carlson stan last year. All I'm saying is, if we break camp and Greg Joseph has a 5+ kicks made lead on Anders Carlson, you're not going to be able to convince me. I don't care who you are, if your name is Tim or not. You're not going to be able to convince me that you should keep a kicker who is making less kicks. And by the way, all reports are out of camp that I've heard, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, Greg Joseph has showed just as strong a leg as Anders Carlson in this camp. If that's the case, I can no longer use that to justify keeping Anders over a kicker that's making more kicks in camp, man. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, this is really tough. It goes on to say he's 36 of 40, which is 90% on the field goals compared to 33 of 40, which is 82.5. The other day we compared both those numbers to the league highs, and even that 90%, it wasn't as high as you would have thought it would have been. It was like 12th. It would have been right around like 12th in the league. So, and that's a big jump from 82.5 to 90%. You know, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 3 kicks, that could be the 3 games won or lost off of those 3 kicks, which I would probably, like you said, it'd have to be a good separation of +5 kicks for me to really consider it, just because right there, yeah, he loves his draft picks. He likes his younger guys. If you look at the progression of they were willing to sit with Mason Crosby after a worse initial rookie season. We all know how that ended up panning out for his career.
Right.
I still think that they would probably hold on to Anders unless it really falls apart towards the end of this year. And plus, again, let's see how he does in the actual in-game situations. It's one thing to be kicking in practice. It's quite a bit different when you're in an actual game situation.
Yeah, for sure. Les in the chat. Appreciate you swinging through. Good to see you in here. Said Goody loves his picks, right? Here's the cool thing, Les. If you decide to try to send Anders Carlson to the practice squad, okay, the way it works with the futures contracts, unless something has changed and the league's constantly changing, I could be wrong here. You put him on the practice squad, you sign him back in the offseason, you get 2 years on that contract, essentially, is how that typically works, because there's a futures aspect to it. There's also some exclusive rights the Packers would have, in a certain sense, to that player. So all you're forfeiting is 1 year off of the contract, because you still got 3 years left. If that converts to more of a 2-year deal now, when you sign him back in the offseason, you're just forfeiting 1 year. So you're not really giving up on that draft pick. Now, is there a chance that somebody signs him? Yes, but they have to sign him to their active roster. I don't think there's any teams out there going, boy, if they cut Anders Carlson, we're signing him. I'm not saying it won't happen like his brother, Daniel Carlson, how he sucked first year or two in the league, and then he ended up being one of the better kickers. That could come on down the road, right? I just hope, personally, they keep the better kicker. Here's the thing, too. We still got, 2-3 weeks left of camp.
Yeah.
Anders may come out and just go on a freaking tear. I'm not attached to a name. If Anders wins that camp battle, and again, if he's down by less than 5 kicks, that's kind of my threshold of like, okay, I'm okay with keeping Anders, because maybe Rich does see something more in him than Greg Joseph. Could be the case. Maybe they think he's more mentally tough than Greg Joseph, although the fact that Greg Joseph has hit so many game-winning kicks for Minnesota, it's hard to justify that just based off of mental toughness in camp, right? So I think you can keep both in that regard and maybe have Anders develop on down the road, but you got to go with the better kicker. You just got to. So, all right, let's see what else we got here in the chat, and we'll wrap this thing up, Jacob. We're going over. We always go over. That's what we do here. 2-0 for this says he's really squandering his chances. Give me that drum roll. CJN says we're talking about a kicker, and Allen Iverson, boy, we talking about kicker, man. Jacob, what are we talking about? Kicker? We ain't talking about touchdowns. We ain't talking about touchdowns that I love, that I die for. We talking about kicker, man. We'll probably get flagged for me saying die for.
Can't say
apologize for that. That's live. Anything else, Jacob?
No, I'm getting my butterflies are rolling, bro. I wish it was a noon game. My least favorite game is the 3:30 games, just because it's not quite the night. I get up way too early, so I'm usually up by like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So if it's a noon game, it's perfect. I get really excited. I'm jacked up. By 3:30, I'm winding down, hop on the post game show, and then I take a nap. Yeah. Whereas if it's a 3:30 game, I got to kill most of the morning. I got to kill early afternoon. Then you're tied up until like 7 o'clock. Then you do the post game show till 8, and then you're like, oh, day's over.
For me, earlier the better. I love the noon games, and then I personally like the 3:30 game over the night game. When it's the night game and we're having to stay up till 2 a.m. doing a post game show, bro.
Yeah,
this is me the next day right here. Out of bed. I just can't. I can't handle it. I can't do it. So the earlier the better for football. Me personally, those night games, I like it being a team that I don't really care that much about, where I can lay down and watch the first quarter and then wake up the next morning and go, who won? You know what I'm saying? But I'm an old man. But all right, we're out of here, guys. We will see you at roughly 2:30 Central Time, okay, for our pregame show. I'll create a link soon. Do us a favor, help share it around. Also, if you want to be entered into the giveaway today, we're going to be giving away a copy of Pat Kerwin's book, Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0. Phenomenal football book. It's probably still my favorite football book. It has a lot of sentimental value. It's the book that helped teach me the ins and outs and the X's and O's of the game of professional football. Anyone who is a member of one of our 3 tiers on Patreon, in our Patreon group, we're going to be giving that away. And what we're going to do is on the post-game show, right before we go live for the post-game show, I'll have an updated list. So you got to get it in as soon as possible. Okay. We'll take everybody in one of those 3 tiers, put them on a list, put them on a wheel, spin it. Whoever it lands on, we'll give away Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0 as a copy donated by our good friend United Bates. And again, one of my favorite books. So make sure, go to Packer Fan Total Access on Patreon. Okay. Patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, or just go to patreon.com and search Packer Fan Total Access. That's one word, Packer Fan. And make sure you remember one of those 3 tiers. Also, when we went live this morning, we still have 4 open slots for our fantasy football league on our Patreon group. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hop in there and sign up for that group there as well. There'll be prizes given away all year. So Jacob, appreciate you, buddy. We'll see you at 2:30, man.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Right. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your morning. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.